English language, explorations and creative reading and writing is 1 hour and 45 minutes. You will be given an insert and a question booklet. The first thing you need to do is read your source and understand the overall ideas. You then find that you have question 1 is a list, which is 4 marks, asks you to select 4 things from a particular part of the text from the beginning. So it will be the first couple or few lines. It'll ask you to list 4 things, and those 4 things can be just simply jotted down. They don't need to be in full sentences. They don't have to be in your own words, but they can be. So it'd be useful to jot down, but highlight which area we are asking you to draw from, and then transfer the information into your exam question 1. Don't spend very much time on this question, it's only worth 4 marks. We then come to question 2, which is the language question, and it asks you to look in detail again at the extract from lines 8 to 18 of the source, and the extract will be printed in this box for you. It asks you how the writer uses language here to describe whatever it is that it's showing you. So in this case it's the effects of the weather. And it gives you a hint as to what you could talk about. So it says you could include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms. So what you need to do is you need to get your highlighter or pen, and you need to find 3 quotes that you think that are really meaty enough for you to pull apart and explore as much as you can. They don't have to be very long, they can just be part of a sentence, but it would be good if you had, if they were taken from evenly throughout the box. Once you have done this, you can annotate the quotes inside the box further if you feel this would help. So for example, I might highlight the word shaking, the verb there, and right next to it what I think that I could say about that verb, and this might help me in my answer later on. So make some annotations, some notes, if you feel that would be helpful. You then need to just start writing and analysing each one of those quotes. It's really just as simple as that. You have to explore and analyse in as much depth as you can, picking the quotes apart in as much detail as you can, offering alternative interpretations where necessary. 2 or 3 quotes. If you only get through 2 because you're writing lots, then that's going to be equally as effective as writing about 3. It's quality over quantity, so it's not about the amount of quotes that you use, it's about what you say about the quotes that you pick. Now we're going to turn our attention to the structure question, question 3. The question reads, you now need to think about the whole of the source. This text is from the opening of a novel. How has the writer described the text to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning, how and why the writer changes this focus as the source develops, and any other structural feature that interests you. You might wonder what we mean by structure. There are many things that you can refer to which would come under the structure umbrella. These are some examples. So for example, you might be looking at the narrative perspective, the paragraphing, the chronology or sequence of events, topic shifts, so a change in subject, sentence structures, tense, so has it started in the past and then continues in the past, or does it change to the future or the present, use of time, the pace of events, and patterns such as repetition, listing, or contrast. However, I'm going to show you a way in which you can organise yourself for this question. You've been given 3 bullet points which will help you to answer this question. The first one is the beginning. So you need to choose something from the beginning, a sentence in the first paragraph or a part of a sentence which sets up the rest of the extract and makes it interesting. Therefore, if you highlight something in that first paragraph which you think you could explain and then write about it, that would be your first paragraph. There's also reference to a change in focus. Does it change from day to night? Does it change from a dream to reality? Is the focus on the weather and then it changes to the passengers? That you need to find a quote which shows the change. And there will be an obvious shift in one of the sentences. Another structure feature is something that's up to you and you can take from the list that I showed you. However, I do find the ending or a particular sentence length the easiest thing to write about. So the ending, is it a cliffhanger? Does it end abruptly? Does it tie up loose ends? And therefore then you would highlight the ending as your third quote and your third paragraph. If it was a sentence length, it may be a particularly short sentence which has a structural feature and has an interesting point that you would like to make. Once you have found 3 quotes for this question, then you would use this in the same way as you would write about your paragraphs in question 2. So 3 paragraphs, 3 areas of structure. It is possible, if you've written a lot, that you may only get through 2, so choose the 2 that you're most comfortable with first. Remember to explain yourself as much as you can, how these structural features work and how they're interesting. So some of it will be explaining how it helps the extract unfold, or how it links to later events, and occasionally you will find yourself analysing the language in the question as well, as long as it's relevant to the point you're trying to make about structure. Question 4 is asking you to agree or disagree with a statement. You'll be given a statement that somebody has said, and then you'll be asked, to what extent do you agree? You should always agree. This question is worth 20 marks, and therefore your answer needs to be detailed and thorough. The first thing you need to do for this extract is quite obviously read the question. So this question says, focus this part of your answer on the second part of the source from line 16 to the end. A student, having read this section of the text, said that this part of the text, explaining what Hale is doing, shows how nervous and unsafe he feels. It reminds me of the first line. So that you need to make sure that you've put a box around line 16 to the end. Just to remind yourself that that's where you need to get your evidence and your information from. Then it reads, to what extent do you agree? In your response, you could consider your own impressions of how Hale feels, evaluate how the writer created an unsafe atmosphere, and support your opinions with references to the text. So, to add to our method, once you've read the question, you then need to agree. Once you've agreed, you then need to come up with 3 reasons why you agree. So I have found my 3 reasons. So number 1, the behaviour of Hale, 2, the description of the crowd, and 3, the description of Hale. Once I decided on my reasons, I then found my evidence. So as you can see, I've tried to find it in a range of paragraphs rather than having them all at the end or all at the beginning. So those there match my statements. So for example, the behaviour on line 23, it states he drank his gin and tonic hastily as the clock struck 11. And so I would unpick the adverb hastily and the kind of ominous suggestion of the clock. So once you have your evidence and you have your reasons, you now have to explain it. The important thing for this question is that you make sure that you unpick and refer to the technical terms that we have. So for example, if you're going to be unpicking the word hastily in the quote, he drank his gin and tonic hastily, you need to say that it is an adverb and what the impact of that adverb is. If you are using a quote which is a short sentence, say it's a short sentence before you unpick it. and explain your reasons. If it has interesting adjectives that add meaning to your reason, make sure you unpick those. So the examiner is going to be looking for your explanation of your reasons and your analysis, but also they are going to be looking for those terms in your answer. Finally, we come to section B, or question 5, in paper 1, the writing section. So it advises you to spend 45 minutes on the section and to write in full sentences, obviously. You're reminded of the need to plan your answer, and you should leave enough time to check your work at the end. You'll be provided with a picture, which probably isn't going to be the most exciting picture you've ever seen. And this picture is going to be an inspiration. So it's going to inspire you to write something. It doesn't have to be a description exactly as it appears, and you can make parts of it up. So for example, it says, your school or college is asking students to contribute some creative writing for its website. Either write a description suggested by the picture, or describe an occasion when you felt unsure or challenged. Focus on the thoughts and feelings you had at that time. So it's important that if you go for the picture, that you are only using it as a stimulus. You don't have to, like I said, use it and describe every single part. You can make parts of it up. You can put bits in that aren't there, as long as it's linked to the picture. So you would still need to plan your answer and not just start writing. And then the second question, describe an occasion where you felt unsure or challenged. This is obviously wherever you want to locate it. You can choose whatever situation that you want to. But again, requires planning. So how do you plan an answer to this question? We'd suggest that you plan 5 paragraphs and make sure that whatever you do in paragraph 1 links in some way to paragraph 5. A really good way of doing this is by using the weather, so that, for example, it starts off being sunny and then ends up starting to rain in paragraph 5, or perhaps the change of the time. So perhaps it's like mid-afternoon in paragraph 1 and it ends up being evening in paragraph 5. The reason that's really important is that the examiner wishes to see this cycle. There has to be some form of cycle, or start, middle and end, and that they link up together. And the reason for this is because it's really important that the examiner sees that you've crafted consciously your piece of work, and that's why we require planning. So the best pieces of work are not the pieces that just start, because particularly with this question, you'll find that you may run out of things to say, and you've described everything in the first paragraph, and therefore it's only a paragraph description. So make sure you plan what you're going to say before you start writing.